Meeting at 6.
Yeah.
All right.
Do lipstick usually. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, the middle school.
I think it's 1:30.
Yes.
I thought it was at the middle school.
The middle school, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
I second it,
Yeah.
whatever.
Barbara, take one and pass them on. Take one and pass it on.
I'm going to call the meeting to order so that we are timely.
Okay.
And hopefully, we're going to be very organized and succinct today, so we're efficient. So, all right. And we have everyone here except Roseanne, and I'm anticipating she's probably
Hey, Riz.
coming. We haven't heard from her. So sometimes she's a few minutes late, but.
Yeah.
So we do have a quorum. Bob?
More. Just keep handing them down so I make a
Staff present. Pamela is present. I believe Tina is coming a little bit later. And Barbara McRae is here from the Friends. We missed you last month, but you were fine. We read your Friends report, and everything, so the minutes, so we thank you for that. Sorry here, I'm just gathering a couple of documents, bear with me. All right. And I think we have introduced everybody that we need to introduce at this moment, and a friendly reminder, this is an open meeting, and we must adhere to the open meeting law. Anyone have any announcements? For the first time in a long time, I'm speechless when it comes to announcements also, I think. Anyone, no one has anything?
Well, other
Other
than
than-
that's at the meeting tonight.
Tonight, I would say, yes, and people have not gone, you had to have reservations in, and I'm guessing it might be too late, because they needed a head count for food. But I would,
But you can attend
Just-
the meeting part.
Yeah.
right.
I'm going to eat.
But I think the bigger issue is being aware of the fact that there is a strong effort in the town to develop a well-balanced, rounded master plan for the town of Littleton. And everyone should, if they don't want to say anything, at least be aware of it and try to contribute in some way, if possible. So that is tonight at the middle school. I would guess the meeting itself would start around 7. Is that
7 to 9.
7 to 9, so thank you.
I read the flyer.
Good job. Other announcements by any chance? Nope. Anything? Nope. Then let's move right on to the minutes. And I would like to again thank Roseanne for taking the minutes, doing the minutes for us last month when Bob was away, relaxing. So, do I have a vote to accept the minutes of the May 9th,
I vote
2016?
that we accept the minutes as presented at the May 9th.
Second? Jean? You okay with that, Bob?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, makes sense.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstaining? None. All right.
And we do not have minutes yet from the joint meeting that was held with the Friends.
They're in the works.
You're working on those, right? Okay.
They're in the works, yep.
They left out my name, but that's all right.
Aren't you Mary?
Mary Marge Bain.
Mary Marge.
No, that's all right. That's it. That's okay.
They left Barbara with no last name either.
Jean, but did we leave out your name, Mary? We have Mary.
Her last
Yeah,
name.
no, it's
last
fine.
name.
It's fine.
Okay, all right.
Fine.
As long as you're okay with
Roseanne
it.
left out her own last name.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about the date. I don't have a calendar. You approved the 9th, and the thing says 16.
So we have to redo it, I think.
I,
You said 9th, but I think it might have been the 16th.
You have a
we
calendar?
didn't have a holiday before.
It's a small detail. We were here,
Is
period.
that the meeting that we had to change the date on?
Because we didn't have a quorum.
Right.
We moved the
That's right,
meeting
we
to
moved the
the,
meeting
to the 16th. You're
Right,
right.
so it's the agenda that's in error, not the minutes, so the minutes are fine.
Oh, okay.
So, but we took a vote on the May 9th meeting. Sorry about that, I looked at the wrong date.
Was it the 16th? Was it 16th?
May 16th meeting, correct. All those in favor of accepting the minutes from the 16th meeting? Thank you. The minutes as they are written. And Jean seconded again. Or, I just asked for a vote, and I really didn't entertain a motion. I might get in trouble for that. But we have a motion to accept the minutes of the May 16th, and we do. Susan is...
So moved.
And Jean. Thank you. And all are in favor, correct? Any abstentions? No. No negative votes? All right. Sorry about that. So, 16th meeting. All right. And Barbara McRae, friends are on. Would you like to come up where people can hear you?
Already?
Yeah, we're moving right along.
Wow. Well, actually,
Saw that.
Very short and sweet, because I really don't have a lot to report right now. We're working on next year's programs. We are trying to fill any requests that come in from the Council on Aging and from Tina. We have a couple of things in mind, but I'm not going to discuss them right now because we're not sure we can do it. And
Volunteer luncheon is this Wednesday.
well, yes, but that is only for volunteers for the Council on Aging, and I do want people to understand that we're not inviting volunteers from other places. It's just that for the Friends of the Council on Aging and the Council on Aging, every year we give a luncheon for our volunteers. And we'd love to do it for the whole town, but this is for our volunteers, and so they wouldn't see it advertised anyplace. The luncheon is invitation only. So, and we're hoping that we get all the volunteers that help us so much. And that is this Wednesday.
Okay.
Other than that, anybody have any questions or anything?
It was a very nice meeting.
before you go on to that, did you mention that the threshold is 50 hours of volunteer service in a year to be
No.
invited?
I didn't.
Yeah. So we made the decision a couple years ago that not just a casual person who drops in once, but someone who gives 50 hours within a year would be
Right.
on the list to be invited.
So when we're talking about volunteers, we're talking about volunteering.
Right, not senior
Basically.
tax workers.
I was just going to say, that's a great way of saying to people, you know what, if you want to have that, be able to attend, it's generally a wonderful luncheon. Step up and volunteer for 50 hours during the year, then you get to come next year.
Exactly. Because we could use these volunteers.
That's exactly right.
And I'm going to be talking about that, not today, but soon, because even with the thrift shop and, we need volunteers to do different things for that. So I will be walking around trying to grab people to do that, so.
And there's some benefits to it, too. It's a great social opportunity to get to know other people.
Right.
Other seniors in town, even non-seniors you
And
come in
just getting
contact
out
with.
and doing something for someone else.
That's exactly right.
So,
That's paying it forward.
right.
Yep.
So that's it.
Well, thank you. Thank you,
And that's
Barbara.
at 12 o'clock?
Yes. Yeah, downstairs, multi-purpose room.
Okay, great.
I'm not sure the menu yet. That's being taken care of by Carol Vale, so you'll find out.
Hey, food is food. Food is
We
good.
didn't cook it.
Okay. Yeah, you don't want me cooking it, I think.
I've heard that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So, moving on to old business. And last month, we did not have the copy. I think that was one of the issues, and as well as the fact that this is something, the standards, a copy of Standards of Independence for Senior Center Participation. And this was an issue that the board members and friends who attended Emmett's program in April, I think it was the end of April, apparently was discussed. And Bob Stetson brought this back.
Are there any extras of that? I didn't get them back.
Well, we can
There were
share.
no extras that came past Bob?
I don't have
Yeah,
any.
there was an extra, there were 4 of them, and
Hold on for a second, make sure I'm not
there should be
stackpiling.
one
That's the thing on the right.
Roseanne's packet's down there.
Well, there should be one for Roseanne, there should be one for me.
I took one for Roseanne right here.
Can you send it down? She is not coming, we did just receive word.
Okay.
What is that? I
But there are
don't,
no extras.
I don't.
No, I don't have, nope, I don't have it, I'm not guilty this time.
It's the
Yeah,
standard.
but that one had an emblem on it. Is that something different? No.
All right, does everyone have their copy? No?
Yep.
Okay,
And it's this document that we're talking about.
right.
Okay.
And if you recall from the last meeting, we didn't have this available, and the issue came up, as I understand it, that somebody from another town, from Clinton, had a problem with a family member dropping off their senior at the senior center for the entire day, and that individual needed a lot of assistance with various things, hygiene. She wasn't independent. And that put quite a burden on them, and they had no essential guidelines to fall back on, and she recommended that COAs incorporate something like that to help them out if they ever had an issue. So, Bob, would you like to say more about it, because you...
Well, what actually happened was that the woman came in, and when they told her that she could not leave her off, she just, the daughter could not understand this at all. As far as she was concerned, this was what they were there for. And she just wanted to drop off her mother and drive away and have her taken care of. And this is why the whole thing got started. So it came up in the discussion that Emmett was holding. And so she provided each of us with a copy, and this isn't the exact copy because it doesn't refer to Clinton, does it?
This is the document I got, and I made copies of it.
Okay. I thought it said Clinton on it, but that's fine. But basically, what it does is it states, what responsibilities there are for people who come to the center in terms of being able to be independent, and anyone who would drop them off. And it was suggested that because of legal liability, that's something that should be adopted.
They weren't confusing it with the social club, were they?
No.
By leaving her off? No?
No, the social
This
club...
was Clinton that
Yes,
this happened.
yeah.
You were there, you heard the story.
I know, yeah.
And our social club is a program that we...
I know,
we do
$15
run.
a
Different
day.
thing.
But we run it, that's a different
They
situation.
also agree to a,
Right.
The difference with the social club is that we have hired staff who run the social club. There are contractors who are paid to be there. And we also have an entry policy. People are interviewed by Tina. We vet people on whether they're appropriate or not. I wasn't at that meeting, but my understanding of this is that this was for people who just, literally the woman was dropping her mother off like in the diner and then driving away.
She wanted
Expecting them to
somebody
take
else
care of
to
her.
take care of her mother for the day is what she wanted to happen.
Right,
day after day after day, right?
5 days a week. So,
Yeah, and she didn't leave any information about the woman being incapable.
Well, but it's not even that, it's like her medications and her medical, what if she had a reaction or did something? We don't know who her doctor is. We don't know who her healthcare proxy is. And that's all really important when you're getting involved with people that are incapable of giving you the information themselves.
Maybe the woman that was left and her daughter were friends and familiar with the council, and they do know who she was and all that information that you're looking for, they probably knew.
But, you
Then
know,
why would it be here that
Yeah.
that was something that
Right.
needed to be provided?
But, you know, even for us, if, let's say I passed out, you put me in an ambulance, I don't know where I'm going. You don't know who my doctor is, where I go, or who my contact is. And that's
You don't
important.
carry a file for life in your purse?
No. I have enough crap in my life.
and also, I think the bigger issue is that, here, and I don't know about other COAs, but I don't feel that we certainly have the staff to be able to take care of somebody like that efficiently.
Yeah, no, we don't.
No, we
And,
don't.
you know, that's a big issue, so that we need to perhaps put together some kind of a guideline that Pam, we could recommend, and with Pam, collaborating with Pam, to give her a tool so that if you do have a situation come up, you can say, these are the kinds of rules and regs that we, or our standards that we have in place. So I don't think anybody's looking to exclude anyone, but
No. And
people
it
just
prob-
need to understand.
And
you
it
know.
probably should go out in the bulletin, that once or twice a year bulletin that goes out there, so that people don't get the wrong idea. Oh, you know, Mommy's here, and she's going to be here for 3 weeks, and you could take care of her, you know? Because that happens a lot, I know, in other situations.
Do we have a telephone number and contact number for everybody who is in the COA?
We try to get everyone into the database, and that's with basic information, the person's own phone number, obviously. We try to get cell phone numbers if possible, their address, et cetera. And then we've been working very hard, Tina's been working very hard to try to get emergency contact information for everyone who is already in our system. We require it for the social club, is that we
Okay, I'm
must
just
have that
looking over
information.
this list, and that was the first thing on the list, and I didn't know whether we had one or not. Then obviously, the second one is to get no smoking, no alcohol, no illegal substances on the premises. I thought that was interesting. And those who are inebriated will be asked to leave. Take responsibility for their own personal care, including hygiene, toileting, continence, and feeding. Very important that people have that ability. Be reasonably oriented, capable of independent decision-making, and capable of planning their own activities. In other words, they have to be cognizant. Avoid causing...
And if I can stop you right there, Bob, that was why we developed the social club, is because we had people who were not cognitively able to do their own planning. They were missing out on activities because they would forget to do the van. They'd forget that the activity was happening, and then when you would see them, you'd say, well, gee, we thought you were going to be at the barbecue, and they had forgotten or didn't realize that it was happening. And that's the very reason that we developed the social club, was for people who are mobile, who can manage their own feeding and what have you, but were cognitively impaired.
But this is not the social, this is not rules for the social club. This is
Right, right.
rules
I
for...
understand that.
Even with the
Yeah.
social club, we draw the line that we are not a medical program, and we cannot handle people who can't toilet themselves and who can't take their own medications.
Avoid causing disturbances and disruptions. We may have in the past had something. Be responsible for their own personal health and medical care, taking medications and so forth, but we don't give out medications. Violence and threats of violence are not permitted. This is the kind of thing where you get into abusive and bullying and that kind of thing, which could conceivably appear. So it tries to cover and say, anyone who is involved in these kind of things cannot be a part of the program.
Is there any reason we can't just accept this as ours? I mean, is there anything about it, Pamela, that is not?
I'd like to add something or throw out a consideration, but go ahead, Mary.
My concern is if they come in on drugs or alcohol, I don't believe we can just send them away because they could be harmed, or you might have to have them escorted by the police or someone. Someone would have to come and get them, because if they're intoxicated,
Did you read the paragraph after number 7?
no. Discretion.
Talking about if necessary, contact the police, doctor, ambulance, or emergency contact person.
Okay.
That's to cover exactly that situation. Well, Susan asked me a question, and
Go ahead.
Marge, I'd like to respond to that.
Go right ahead.
My reading of this and my understanding of this has been a discussion item with directors at other centers, is that you put something like this in place so that if you do have problems, you have something to fall back on for a discussion, rather than it becoming a he said, she said. You never said that we couldn't do that. What do you mean? We've always done that. That's always been the way, whatever. That you have something to fall back on. Although you'll notice that it does go on and say, if a participant cannot meet the required standards, staff is available to share resources and discuss options, which is your out, that if there's someone who you feel like there's something you can do for them, we could sit down with the family or sit down with whatever was going on and try to sort it out. But it's a way to kind of set the standard in advance of having a problem. Marge and I were talking about this at lunchtime, and I would like to add to number 3, take responsibility for their own personal care, including hygiene, toileting, continence, feeding, and I would add independent mobility.
And what?
Independent mobility. I think we make the assumption in this building that people can move from place to place
Right.
on their own, that they can get in and out on their own. But I'd like to make it explicit as opposed to just making the assumption. Just like we've always made the assumption that no one's going to show up drunk, but they could.
Okay. Well, are you meaning that someone would have to be able to get in and out of a wheelchair, or you're not allowing the wheelchairs in at all?
Oh, we would never ban wheelchairs.
No.
I'm saying that a person needs to be able to get into the building and move around the building, and not that the expectation would be that we would move them from spot to spot.
Okay.
Okay, now that the question becomes, she read it as talking about wheelchairing or having a walker or something. I would have not have read it that way, but I understand, as soon as you said it, I understood why. Maybe there's a different way to put it.
Do we have handicap bathrooms downstairs?
Yes.
On the second floor? Doesn't, by the elevator, it says the handicapped are on the second floor.
Because that
The ones by the
would be
Park
an
and Rec handicapped?
That's, well, I think it is, and.
But I know we definitely have them on the second floor.
Yeah, but that doesn't help, I mean,
But the sign by the elevator says handicapped bathroom.
Second floor.
Second floor.
Right.
Yeah, it does.
That's our official handicap bathroom. Mary, you weren't on the board at the point where we first started with the kitchen project. And at one point, we had asked for the bathrooms to be made ADA compliant, and it raised the price another $200,000, so.
Sure.
They kind
I
of
just
came
was
out of the
asking
picture.
I've been in the bathroom once, but, I don't remember, whether if someone had to transfer from a wheelchair.
No,
who's
I wouldn't use that
capable-
bathroom, no.
Yeah, okay.
There is there was work done last year on a survey of all the town buildings and a prioritized list of what needed to be addressed. And out of that came some roofing projects and things like that. And I know that changing those bathrooms to become ADA compliant was on the list. I'm not sure what its position is.
Is there a question, is there an evaluation of any sort done when people decide to sign up for the exercise classes?
An evaluation, not that I know of, there is a waiver that people sign.
Oh, there's a waiver.
Right.
okay.
And in the waiver, it says things like, you have
I have to
consulted
pay
with
for it
a
if I get
physician.
anything wrong.
Well, it says that you've consulted with a physician and that you've got the okay to participate, and that if you have any change in your health or physical issues, that you will alert them immediately and all of that.
And the
So
town
the
is not
waiver
liable.
is really covered by this.
I think if
And
we
it was done
sponsor,
through the town attorney.
Right.
The waiver was created through the town attorney.
Okay.
I think if we sponsored trips, there is a waiver for bus trips also in your office, so that's covered. Yeah.
As far as number 3 goes, I also have a little bit of difficulty with the word feeding, because I don't think we feed anybody. It's their eating skills. Don't you think, more than feeding? Continence and feeding, it sounds like, somebody's has to feed them, and we're certainly not going to be, but eating even, it means, capable of,
They may be able to chew, but not bring it to their mouth.
Right, so we're not gonna, we don't do that, People have to be able to eat independently, and it's eating more than it is feeding, so.
And
We can change that word.
This business about being cognitively aware and taking responsibility, think about a person with a peanut allergy who gets dropped off, is in the diner and eats a peanut butter cookie. People need to be aware enough to be able to manage their own circumstances here.
Or at least to ask for help or
Yeah.
whatever.
Or two, yeah.
I think, I don't, we could put another word in there, but it says to take responsibility for their own care, including hygiene, toileting, continence, and feeding themselves.
All right,
Because that's
you
what
can
it
say that.
says.
Okay.
You can do that, too, that's all right.
Yeah, I like the feeding themselves
Okay, that's a little bit clearer.
and independent. But there's no reason this can't be our format or our list.
Oh, it's pretty well.
Our document, we can adopt it, I think, and say, and make it a recommendation that people look at it. She can make other changes and come back with some suggestions.
And you'll notice that this wasn't written by Clinton, this was taken from the EOEA standards.
Right.
Standards of practice.
Yep.
Standards of independence.
Would this be posted someplace so that people can see, they don't just come in and say, Good.
And I think, are you okay, Bob, with the mobility, independent mobility phrasing now? Or independent mobility means a number of things. It means being able to get around independently, whether or not you use a cane or a crutch or a wheelchair or whatever, it doesn't matter. You got to be able to do it independently. That's the key.
That means you do it.
Right, I have to be able
You're
to,
in a wheelchair and you can do it, okay.
you do it, yes, and you know what, that's fine. But people aren't going to be pushing you in a wheelchair from room to room, or from an activity upstairs, downstairs to the diner, and then back outside to the car, or to the van, or whatever. You need to be able to get around yourself.
One question. The second floor handicap bathroom, is it easily accessible
Yeah.
for someone that was in a wheelchair?
It is.
Like, does it have a press thing so it opens the door?
That's the only problem, it does not have an electric door.
That's the biggest problem we have in this building, is there are no internal electric doors.
Yeah, okay.
But the inside, and there's a large, you've been in there,
I
yeah.
understand that, but I'm thinking of getting in and getting out of there, especially if you're in a wheelchair, that makes it a little bit different.
Constance does it all the time.
My personal fantasy is, I would like to put the Board of Selectmen each in a wheelchair and then have them
Right.
each go into the bathrooms.
It's
Because I
like,
think they would quickly find out, I'd start them in the multipurpose room, because they would find out that those doors are too heavy to open when you're in a wheelchair, and then have them try to negotiate getting in and out of the bathrooms.
right, and a better way to learn.
But that's what fantasies are for, right?
Right. So,
And could I add one other thing to this, Marge?
everybody,
Well, it's
please.
interesting, number 4, when, we're talking about them being cognitive, and number 4 says be oriented.
Oh, that knocks all of us off right there. What day is today?
Now,
So I've
that
been-
could mean a lot of things to a lot of people.
That's right.
I would be oriented, never mind reasonably.
Well, you could tell your birth date and you could tell your name, but you may not know where you are.
I mean, that's subject to an awful lot of interpretation, reasonably oriented.
Well, and then it goes on to say capable of independent decision-making, that's part of being oriented.
I mean, if you want to tear this apart, I mean, reasonably is very subject to interpretation.
Well, we could be specific and say, be oriented, time, person, and place, but
Well,
we're not
exactly.
going to test anybody to do that, right? So,
It's a basic guideline.
it is a basic one, and this is taken from Standards of Independence
It's a basic
211.
guideline, but
It's not a legal
but
document.
reasonably,
But I mean,
a basic guideline.
you could have somebody come in and say, well, you say that, they were reasonably reasonable.
Well, she's
and
reasonable.
They fell and they broke their hip and now it's...
She might be reasonable at 9 in the
No, it
morning,
doesn't
but by
say to be
11, she
reasonable,
might
it
be way
says to be
off.
reasonably oriented. You don't have to be reasonable to be oriented. Really?
Right.
And I'll give you a list of people that I know.
Yeah, I could start now, too.
Be nice.
So if I can add to this, you know that I've been meeting with the Crosstown Connect people because we're getting ready to bring in the new policy where we can pick up people in other towns
Okay.
on the vans of the people who are in Crosstown Connect. And there is going to be a standard of behavior that will be issued for riders in the category of Great Minds Think Alike, which they had come up with independently out of dispatch and out of the 4 towns that are participating, which follows in some ways some of these items such as the intoxication and things like that.
So in essence, actually, if we took this form as, with the corrections or additions with changes we've made, and then, when that comes out, Pam sees that there's something else that could be incorporated into this, then she can come back. Yes, Barbara?
Having seen that already, I've seen the draft of it, and I've been in meetings to talk about it. I think this is very much in line
Okay.
with that kind of
Barbara has something to say.
I think all of that is really good. I think it's a good thing to have here. What people that don't know anything about the Council on Aging have to understand that it isn't a nursing home necessarily, where you bring your family, and we have nurses and doctors and caregivers.
It's not a medical daycare.
To just be there for someone who needs care. This is where, it's for health and welfare, but, meaning exercises and, programs and knitting and all this. So, first of all, that's one thing they need to understand.
Well, thank you, and you're right, I agree with you, and I think that's one of the focuses that the Awareness Subcommittee has, is to help get the word out more and more about what the senior center is all about, and, just exactly that. So that's one of the reasons we formed that subcommittee, and they've been meeting regularly, and they've got some great plans for third Thursdays this summer, and they're working on lots of things, so.
Do we know if Roseanne will be able to do Thursday? She was going to do the first Thursday.
I don't know, you'll have to check with her. She's not going to be here today, she did notify us.
No, I
she-
know that.
can't answer that, though. All right, moving on.
Well, what do you want to do about
Yes,
this?
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Would you like to make a motion that we accept this as a suggested document for Pamela to
If I can get
incorporate?
back to the minutes, I will read it to you, but right now I'm trying to,
Okay. Deal with Microsoft 10?
yeah.
Okay, say no more.
I think it needs a little work. I mean, just looking at forward, first you gotta be reasonably oriented, but then you have to be capable.
But,
They don't preclude each other.
no,
They don't.
They what?
They don't preclude each other.
I don't know, it's a little off for me.
I think
But
we
that, you
could
know, whatever the
nitpick the
majority wants is
semantics
fine.
of it forever. And it is, what we're looking for is a basic guideline to help assist Pamela and Tina. And I don't think we need to do much more than this. And if it needs to be amended or changed later on, we always have that
that's,
ability.
right. And also, if you look at number 4, Patty, it gives you examples, e.g., reasonably oriented and decision-making and planning, e.g., transportation, lunch, financial transactions. These are all things people are capable of doing. So it gives you a focus on, and this is pretty much standard phrasing in independent
Well, it's from the EOEA.
right, so.
If you were looking at it, this is where it was taken from.
So it's not just
Here.
somebody's bright idea to come up with.
Right.
Did you find it, Bob?
Okay, discussion of senior independence policy, see attached.
See
There's a
this?
legal need
Yeah, I
for people
did,
to
yeah. I saw a
understand.
long time ago.
There is a legal need for people to understand that everyone attending COA programs must be independent. It is suggested to add to number 3 and, quote, and independent mobility, and have independent mobility and feeding themselves, and in number 4 to remove reasonably from reasonably oriented. The notice will be posted. Crosstown Connect will have the like policy. It was moved, seconded, and voted to accept the policy. Only you got to do that.
I understand. How does that
Move that
sound?
we accept this as our basic guideline for standards of independence at our senior facility.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Bob or Cam, Mary, either one. All right,
You take a vote?
I will take a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
I
That's it.
abstain.
Oh, one abstention, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. Not go up, but anyway. One abstention, Bob?
I'll make a clean copy of this. It was only given to me as a sheet of paper, so I have it as a PDF. I'll turn it into an actual document and distribute it, and suggest that everyone put it in their handbook.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all. That was actually pretty quick, I think. All right, on to new business. Announcement of reappointments. And we had 2 people reappointed by the Board of Selectmen last week, a week ago today. Mary was reappointed for a full term. Patty had completed Mary Kay's term, and so was appointed in her own term now. So Patty is on for 3 more years, and Mary, so congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
And, I'm sorry, Bob, need help? Nope, okay. It's just that frustration. I'm not looking forward to dealing with that.
It's not that, it's my computer, it's
Oh.
giving me a pain.
Okay, we're moving on to review of subcommittee appointments. Pam and I were talking about the subcommittees recently, and
I'm so sorry, I told you I'd make a list.
but we'll
I'm
get
so
along.
sorry.
That's apology accepted. We'll get along fine. I'm
We could
sure.
probably make the list with everyone sitting here. if
That's
they just
exactly
would-
right.
would speak up.
But, we thought, this is the time of year where you kind of look to see and review things and look to see where we're going, et cetera, et cetera. And we thought it should become an annual thing to review the subcommittees, to see if the board feels that we need to continue each subcommittee, who is on each subcommittee, and if each person on the subcommittee wishes to remain, or they might wish to change subcommittees, so it would just take a few minutes to do that. And we put it on the agenda for that purpose, and it also would refresh our memories. So, and we were going to have a list, but that's okay. I'm sure everybody knows what subcommittee they're on, and I think I have it down a little bit. I might not have it
The
all.
subcommittees I have are membership,
Right,
needs assessment, awareness, and housing.
and that's right, that's what I had.
We had dissolved the space subcommittee, and the one I had a question about was the accessibility of town meeting subcommittee. I didn't know if that was still active or if that was dissolved.
It's active in that I still go and double check. It's not over, it's kind of just about ready to end, I would say.
This would probably be a good time to.
Good time to end it, and you can always, I think all of us have an obligation to oversee that, to ensure that the additional parking, is available at town meetings and at
Is that going to be
voting.
classic now that is actually in the documents for the town?
Yes, they have adopted it, they have been doing it
Yes, they have.
quite regularly since it was first, it's been 2 years, I think.
It's been 2 years.
Yeah. And they've been faithful about keeping it and setting it up, so I don't think really we need to have a subcommittee for that anymore, that's my personal opinion. So,
So
and then I think
the needs
membership,
assessment was
Okay.
Bob and Susan.
I joined it when Chris left.
Okay, I don't know what's going on, but I'm,
frustrated.
You can't take minutes anymore?
no, it's set, it's put into editing, but I don't know what that means. It's giving me only a read-only copy.
Well, I think we can all take some notes and help you out, maybe, huh? So
You
that,
can always look at the tape.
right. So let's move on and hope that we can,
So you're on the needs assessment.
work together to help fill the gap
Still
for
gonna
you.
be?
I don't think there's much left for us to do.
On the needs assessment, I was just
Right.
asking.
Oh, that is the next question.
We
the needs
haven't met
assessment.
in forever.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, is do you think that that needs to continue, or should we dissolve that subcommittee and
My feeling is to dissolve it.
needs assessment?
Oh, okay.
This needs assessment project has been completed.
Correct.
The readout was given to the Board of Selectmen, and we're moving more into the implementation end of things.
Right.
Which is the result, and we have some subcommittees established as a result of
Result of-
implementing, so
Right.
that I think we're on the right track.
Right.
And I don't think we necessarily need that either, but I don't know.
I don't know either.
How do you all feel about it?
Well, at this I don't know, but at this point in time, it sounds like it's kind of settled down, and that if it needs to be revisited later, you could do that.
Well, yes, and it could be another 10 years before we need to do another needs assessment per se. We have the needs assessment, and we need to use that as an ongoing document now to help us guide us, I think, so.
And the projections from the needs assessment were out to 2030, I believe. So, if you wanted to start an implementation of the needs assessment committee, but as you said, we're already doing that in bits and
And
pieces.
very specific kinds of
Yeah.
things.
We, in our planning meetings back in January and February, kind of took the needs assessment recommendations, and then moved forward and came up with our own. So I think we're in pretty good shape with that.
So I move that we cease the needs assessment committee.
Could you make that, we did not vote on ceasing the,
We'll do that. I vote that we cease the what was it? The
Town meeting
town meeting.
accessibility.
Yes.
accessibility committee. Although I
And-
thought that was good.
And the needs assessment.
And the needs assessment, okay.
So moved.
Seconded, please?
Second.
Mary, okay, thank you, Mary Pickard. All those in favor of, all right, aye.
Okay.
No abstentions?
Let's just slow down for a minute. It was moved and seconded that the needs assessment and, what was the other one?
Town.
Town meeting
Town-
accessibility. I think that's what you called it. Is that right, Patty?
Accessibility subcommittees be dissolved. So voted. Okay, now, did we say anything about other subcommittees? Because I'm,
No.
No, we're working on that, but I did not get,
okay,
we had a unanimous vote, I believe, I was in the middle of the vote there, finishing up, so I do not believe there are any abstentions or negative votes.
No.
So, okay, we're all set on that. All right, and then we have, let's see, membership, and the current members are myself and Barbara Cam and Jean. We have not been actively meeting
But it
in the last few months, but yet things come up all the time that we need to kind of look at and address, and so I'm not,
No, that
personally-
needs to continue, because you guys do all the sort of updating of our manuals, and,
yes, it's not a hard, right now, it's not very time-consuming. It has been time-consuming in the past, and it could be in the
Barbara
future.
Cam, Marge, and Jean.
Barbara.
Barbara, Jean, and myself. So I agree, I don't know how you feel, you two, and do you wish to stay on that subcommittee? Okay, so that one is fine, we're not going to change anything there. And
I
we
think it's
have,
nice having the membership committee, because that's a mechanism that's in place for making edits to documents and things that would go into the handbook, et cetera.
and we need to keep the handbook, I found it very helpful, so. All right, and then we have the
Awareness?
Awareness Subcommittee, which is a new subcommittee recently formed. I think you've had, what, 3 meetings?
yes.
Yes, which is
I
great.
made two, I think. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. We had the 3, though. And the members are Susan and Mary Pickard, And Roseanne,
Roseanne, yeah.
yes.
Mary is our chair.
And Mary is the chair, yes. So, and that seems to be going very well. They're very active.
Yes, we're hoping in August to have our statement of purpose.
We've been working on words and things of that sort, and we've got to get together at some point in time.
We're meeting on the 22nd at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
On the 22nd
Okay,
of
it's
July.
Mary Pickett, Susan Dunn, and who?
Oh, gee,
Roseanne.
Roseanne.
the 22nd, 4 a.m. in Buenos, okay.
So, and that committee is intact. And then we have the housing.
Nikki.
Housing Subcommittee is Bob Stetson, Patty,
Mary Picard.
and Mary Picard.
Remind me to keep my hands down.
Yes. Well, here's your opportunity to do a step down if you want, or whatever, so.
I don't know what's happening with it, but I am getting enlightened all the time, so I think it's important for me to be there,
Okay.
at least to try.
Am I missing anything?
Nominating happens once a year.
That's a once a year.
Wait a minute.
It's not-
Housing Subcommittee is Bob Stetson, Mary Hunt, and
Mary Pickard.
Mary Picard. That's not really a subcommittee, the nominating committee, it's a,
Okay,
yeah, it's
A
not really-
yearly committee, kind of.
Yeah, it's not a subcommittee.
okay. Good to know.
So, did I miss anything?
all
I think we got them all.
They're going to continue, right?
Everyone wishes to continue, no changes. Okay. Let's see. We have, I'm looking down this one here. Mary C., you need to be on a subcommittee. I didn't have your name down there.
I was doing communications, but at an informal meeting with you, it was decided I discontinue that. So that hasn't been that long time, and I'm still open to what committee I want to be on.
Well, communications was not a subcommittee.
No,
No. So, and then that was moved to be able to, share anything that needed to be communicated to the announcement section
what
of the agenda.
committee are you suggesting is open, looking for members?
She could have my spot on housing if she'd like.
No.
Well,
You're
it's not a
doing
matter
good
of-
because you've already met 3 times, right?
that's
we're talking
awareness.
assessment.
Oh.
Don't we have another area also which we're still looking at? We had membership awareness, housing,
Transportation.
and transportation eventually, yeah.
Well, we have not decided to move forward on the transportation issue at this point. I think we have tabled that for a time. But I would like to have Mary on a subcommittee. It's a duty of a board member to serve on a
I
subcommittee.
was on the nominating, which is now dissolved, so I'm open for suggestions.
Well, the 2 active committees are awareness and housing.
Well, both of you, 3 of you are on both of those.
No, I'm not on housing.
You're not on housing?
No.
I am
just
on
awareness.
both of them.
Who's on housing? You and who else?
Bob Stetson
And
and Pat.
Patty. So you could be on that, if you wanted to take that position, that's fine with me.
What else have you got?
The assessment committee, and I'm the chairman.
The awareness, not a.
Awareness, well,
Whether there's 3 or more members, it doesn't give you any number, so she can just be added to a committee if she wants to go on any one of the 3.
Well, are you interested in the housing committee? Subcommittee?
Okay.
Housing, Bob. All right, Mary, I'm officially appointing you to the housing subcommittee. Okay?
there'll be 3 Marys on there.
Mary C., Mary P., and
Bob, Patty, and myself, right? Who's the other one? I thought there was another one.
But I can come off of it, it doesn't
there-
matter.
No.
There can be 4 members.
No, you, I'll add 4 of us.
You put your hand up, you're not supposed to, remember?
Don't make things more difficult.
all right.
I'm gonna bring my little locks.
Okey-doke.
My handcuffs.
I think we're finished with the subcommittee.
Yes.
All right, everybody okay with that? Everybody knows the names of the subcommittees that we have in existence and the members. So, okay, moving on to the incident reporting policy, and I think that's Pam's.
Well, and following right along the heels of this independence policy, we kind of touched on a little bit. People were asking, what do you do if somebody faints and they're not able to speak for themselves? You each have a copy, first of all, of the policy around incidents, which is from 2014. And then this is the town's incident report form, which I've just adapted and placed the name of our department on it to make it more clear where it's coming from. The town policy, as you can see, is that a copy of the form is provided to, in the case of the town, it says the head of the department, and then to the office of the selectman. So this is the form that gets filled out if there's any incident, and this is what we define an incident as and explain what the procedure is. So the most important thing is that an incident is defined as any occurrence out of the normal, including but not limited to falls, loss of consciousness and fainting, accidents, such as someone being struck by a falling object or other injury, sudden illness of a person, appearance of incapacitating intoxication. And then it lays out what to do. Call 911, give first aid if you're trained to do it. As soon as possible, notify me so that I know that there's an incident in the building. And then you'll notice that if there is an employee involved, there's a slightly different procedure because the insurance company wants to be informed. And then that's followed with, in case of an incident with a volunteer, contractor, or visitor, again, this incident report form that it says, what we do is we send this form along. We had an incident of a woman who collapsed in the thrift shop. And that's exactly the kind of incident that they want to be informed about in case a person were to later come back and sue, or any questions be raised about paying for injuries, etc.
So it would seem as though with these two documents, as well as the one that we just, recommended that Pam incorporate, we're in better shape than we were before, as far as having some boundaries and knowing where to go and how to manage difficult things, so. That's great. I hadn't seen this, I wasn't aware of it. That's good. I knew you did something, but I wasn't sure exactly what, myself.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions about it.
No? Okay. All right. Goal discussion. Additional space for the COA. And we all had, I think most of us agree that it was a great meeting with the Friends, talking about space for the COA recently. So I don't know if people have thoughts, comments, questions, ideas. Where do we want to go with this?
What can we do with it? As far as,
Not much.
yeah.
Kind of at a standstill.
It's a process.
It is a
I see it as a process, and it's going to take time, that's for sure. I think it was interesting that we all who attended the combined, meeting agreed that it would be desirable to stay at this location if at all possible because of the, ease, it's the center of town, it would be easier for people to get here, et cetera, et cetera. And all of
Having
the,
just dicky-dooed up the kitchen.
yes, and having that done, and, so many reasons. Transportation is easier than being out in the boonies someplace, not having.
Parking is easier.
Yep, not having the responsibility of building maintenance as some.
Just need
see-
more rooms.
They do. And looking to see if that would be something that would be feasible in the near future, who knows? But that's something worth exploring. I think that's where we all left things, kind of, in my mind, anyway. I don't think we're going to explore it, excuse me, in the next month or two, but go ahead.
I'm just wondering if we can't go any further with it until we find out what the library is going to do. Because if the library's going to move, maybe we can scooch.
My understanding was that that's on hold. Is that correct?
The big, if I can answer that, Marge.
Yeah.
The big next check mark for the library is the town meeting in the fall.
Okay.
They would need to come before town meeting in the fall and obtain the vote for the town to say that they would go ahead with the project. Because remember, even though they're being reimbursed 50%, the town would still have to provide the other 50%. So it's a borrowing item that would be on the warrant. Until that either happens or doesn't happen, I think we don't have a clear picture.
So
And the other
essentially-
thing is that if anything happens with Indian Hill, which, again, I haven't heard anything like a firm date at all in terms of that property being offered for sale.
It would be more feasible if the library leaves, if Park and Rec would go, and as you say, we take the first and second floor at this end of the building.
Yeah, that would be great.
That'd be great.
That would be great.
I suggest we don't need to spend a lot of time at this meeting going over this, because we've done
Right.
it over in the other meeting, and
I think, and
I was
maybe
gonna
it should be
suggest
tabled until we see what
Until
happens.
the fall, then
Right.
we know something. And
I think
then
that's-
we can chew the,
Great idea, I think, personally,
That'd be great.
and a lot's not going to happen in the course of the summer anyway, between everything that's going on with people, so.
And in the meantime, I refer people to check the lobby of the library or check online and look at the diagrams of what the library is trying to do, and just inform yourself on kind of what's going on with that piece of the puzzle. I did hear, I don't know if it was at this meeting, but I know it was at the meeting with the Friends, that they were talking about the replacement for the tennis courts being $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
And since then, it seems that that figure was somewhat inflated, and that they have a more reasonable figure that would be about $500,000.
Well, that makes a lot
Well, the
more
tennis
sense,
courts.
doesn't it? Wow.
And that would probably be part of the whole project, because obviously, you've got to relocate the tennis courts somewhere.
But that's a much more reasonable figure. So, okay, are we in favor? All those in favor of tabling this until the fall and revisiting it then? Aye. Abstentions?
Okay.
Negative votes? Noes? Okay, good to go, Bob. All right. We are up to E, item E under new business. Present the slate of nominees from the nominating committee. And I think Jean is the one. You do need a microphone. I don't. Well, the nominating committee has a report to give to us.
It's been decided that everything is going to remain the same. Marge is chair, Patty is vice chair, and Bob is secretary. So it's going to be,
continuity.
that's what you're recommending.
And that's what you're recommending. The nominating committee is recommending.
That's the slate.
yes.
That's the slate.
Oh, okay.
That's the word.
She told me this
slate.
ahead of time.
Sorry. So, all right. So that is the presented slate of nominees from the nominating committee,
Right.
and we now need to take a vote.
I nominate these three people,
The slate?
slate, be acknowledged and determined that they should be on the board for the next year.
Right.
I think the process is that you accept the slate and you now have the election.
That's what we're doing.
We're
So the
accepting.
first thing you want to
Accepting the
ask,
slate.
is there any other nominations?
Are there any other nominations for chair?
No.
No. So do you accept?
I do accept.
Patty, any nominations for vice chair?
No.
Patty, do you accept?
I accept.
accept. Bob, any nominations for secretary? Bob, do you accept?
Wait till I see whether I can make it. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we should have I don't want to solve the issue. I was going to say, we should have a nomination for somebody to fill in when he's not available. But anyway,
No, so
I'm sorry.
everyone's accepted the
okay.
nomination, and so you're in.
No, you gotta.
No, we have to vote. We have to
Oh,
vote.
okay.
Have to vote, and you all have to accept that slate of officers, correct?
Do three at once, or do we do it one by one?
No, you can do it as a slate.
I think it can be done.
Move second and voted to accept the, go ahead.
Second Mary's.
Okay. Accept.
You're all set to vote.
Yeah.
We're set to vote.
All those in favor of accepting the proposed slate of officers?
We love continuity.
Just 3 ayes, 4 ayes? Anyone else in
Mary's not-
favor?
You're not voting?
I already did it. You weren't looking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gee.
You guys
Okay.
are voting?
I'm voting. I accept the slate. Patty, are you voting?
Oh, okay.
And Bob. All right, I think it's a unanimous vote, Bob.
I know it, that's.
You have to vote for yourself.
I knew I was going to do this. I could have been a little more professional.
You did fine, you did fine, absolutely fine.
He put himself in the minutes, so it's okay.
And so now we get, the new duties are become effective at the end of this meeting, so we just continue on.
So you can quit now.
And we now need to talk about whether we want to hold a board meeting in July. And in the past, we have not done that. We have not held a meeting in July.
Will
So,
the July broadcaster be with the June combination? Like,
No, June's already been.
June's already
delivered.
gone out.
oh, there will be one in July then. Or maybe
Yeah,
it'll be
July,
and
August combination.
Yeah,
That's always the way we do it,
okay.
at least for
But
the
there
last
may
few
be a
years.
joint Friends meeting, is that on the table?
that's still pending. Nancy, I haven't heard back from Nancy. That's how we left it at that meeting, that Nancy was going to explore the possibility of getting together with Keith. I haven't heard back from her. So that's,
Then I'll make a motion, we have no COA meeting.
that, we're talking about the board meeting, and if,
Our board meeting,
this board meeting.
yes.
If there were to be another meeting, it would be a special meeting of the COA anyway, as the last one was. It would have to be considered a special meeting.
It was moved second unanimously, voted unanimously to not hold a board meeting in July. Now take the vote.
What would we do without him? He's keeping us on track. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? None. We're good to go, Bob. All right, we're down to budget reports, and you're on now. You can move along quickly.
Okay, you have the two budget reports, there's nothing spectacular.
It's only 2:34.
On the regular budget,
Everybody has 4 budget.
why did I get 2 copies of the,
There's April and there's May.
right? Oh, I see, okay, yeah. All right, I'm gonna just go on the May budget, with the one that ends with May filled in, because that's the one that's really.
The latest and the greatest.
I had to go back a minute ago to get the numbers. On the May, March budget, obviously, we're still in good shape. We have money left for the last, for the last month, so we should make it to 8,000 with no problem. The office budget, we have 1 month to go. You'll notice that some of the things are over, and we might want to change the budget numbers for next year. For instance, increase the travel a bit, to increase the recreation services, and then adjust down some of the others, like the meal site, we have $2,900 left over, so we can, we can play with that, but basically, obviously, there's $18,000 left, and we average about $11,000 a month, so that's no big problem. We'll make the year without any problem. We probably ought to get as close to 0 as we can, but the minuses in the balance column only mean that those particular items in the budget are overspent from what the budget line is at the beginning, but the whole budget as a whole is well, is a good balance. So we won't even expend it all under normal circumstances.
Minuteman assessment, that's out there hanging?
No, it's there, it's all paid.
Yeah, it was paid in March.
Oh, it doesn't get, oh, I'm sorry, that doesn't get paid at the end of the year.
It isn't paid.
And we know it's gonna be 2005 because that's the number they gave us, but we don't pay them until the end of the year, so.
And the meal site number is funny because the meal site was closed for so many months.
I'm wondering about that, whether that
That's why
was,
we
yeah.
didn't spend anywhere close to what we normally would have spent.
Yeah.
And we were using some funds that we had left over in the capital budget to do a lot of things for the meal site, so that, you know, I'm just saying to Pam that maybe for next year, we ought to adjust the budget figures a little so that we don't show negative deficits, but the money is well within, we have, as you can see, the total balance is $18,185, and we average about $11,000 a month, so there's no problem at all. Any questions?
What's recreation?
Recreation is all the money that's spent for different groups that come to like the Stretch and Flex. If they don't have 25 people at a meeting at $2, it doesn't pay the full $50, so some of it's paid out of that. So if yoga doesn't have whatever it is that they charge them, and so that gets charged with. And there are some other things that go into recreation services too. What else goes in recreational services? I mean, there are a number of those.
Equipment, the cost of any programming, special programs that come in.
So, and again, it's not a negative figure, it's only a negative figure from what we allotted in the budget, which was 4416, and we're at 5672, but that's okay, because there's plenty of money there.
Right.
It's just, it meant that we just didn't budget well.
And kind of to expand on your question, Mary, so let's take Stretch and Flex as an example. So there's a contractor who runs the Stretch and Flex program, and she needs to be paid, obviously. She collects a certain amount of money for the class. Most of this year, that money was not sufficient to cover the cost of her. So the money that gets collected goes into the 200 account, which is a revolving fund. And then when I pay her each month, I pay her as much out of that fund as was put in for that class, but what's over that needs to be paid comes out of the recreation fund. And then if I have someone come in and do a presentation that's for free, then that's paid completely out of the recreation fund.
Well, the Friends do an awful lot, so I don't, we
Their
would,
budget doesn't show up on here. This has nothing to do
no,
with
it
Friends
doesn't.
money.
No, I realize that.
Any other questions?
The other one is the capital budget, is that here? Yes. And the
talk about the
capital
funds?
budget is, again, there's nothing spectacular. The minus number shows what's left in the budget if you look at the balances. And the paper recycling, we know, is zero.
Yeah, I don't know why that keeps showing up on there, because Bonnie says that it's gone.
And
He's talking about this
transportation fund, for the van, has $20,900 in it. The van funding, the van fund budget has $13,800. Newsletter is got $165 in it. The Minuteman kitchen gift is come and gone. There's nothing spectacular there. If anybody has any questions. Okay.
Thank you. All right. I think you're on, Pam.
Director's report. So I had already mentioned the idea that I've been working with Crosstown Connect and meeting with the directors from the other councils that are involved in Crosstown Connect. Maynard, Acton, Boxborough, and Littleton, obviously, as well as with the Crosstown Connect people, the people from Transaction, the dispatch, central dispatch people, and we've also had a person from the state, from Mass Mobility, who's been working with us to help us make the transition into this new phase following this new agreement where we can now take people from other towns. Been a couple of lengthy meetings about that. I'm hoping in mid-July, or maybe the end of July, that we'll have an actual announced date that will start, and then the policy will be released for internal purposes, and then they're talking about an outwardly facing document that's going to be available to riders and residents in town, just so that they can get a feel for how that's going to work. I have to tell you that they were very excited. The other towns were very excited about the prospect of being able to ride with us on Fridays to Mass General and to Leahy. Boxborough, for example, doesn't do anything like that. Even Acton has issues with going very far. Maynard, same way. So they're very happy to do that. I'm happy to have the opportunity that if the Acton van is at Emerson, to not have to send a van down there to pick somebody up, that they can either pick up one of our people who's at Emerson, or on their way from Emerson, swing by DCI and get a dialysis patient or whatever would be necessary. It's going to be a more difficult job for dispatch, because obviously they have more balls in the air and they need to keep track of things. But from our standpoint, it's nothing but to the good in terms of making service available.
I remember seeing in the Sun on Lowell, they gave Groton a van, I think, which is pretty nice.
Well, Mart did that to us, too.
That white bus that we drive around is from Mart.
It was given to us by Mart.
Yeah. Mart is the equivalent of the LRTA, which manages Groton. No, Groton is the LRTA.
They work out of Lowell, we work out of Massachusetts,
Okay,
which is why it's Mart.
okay.
Pam, just a curiosity, do you think there will be any problem with people not having their known regular drivers picking them up?
I don't think so. I think that probably this is going to be the exception rather than the rule,
Okay.
that
I
there'll be
just
someone else picking them
wondered
up.
whether people might feel funny if they don't recognize the person who's picking them up.
I thought about that too, and then I thought education's going to be key, so that they are not surprised, that's all. I think they're going to have to. And the 4 towns that are involved in Crosstown Connect now, in this aspect of it, are Maynard, Acton, Boxborough, and Littleton, is that correct?
Those are the 4 actively participating centrally dispatched towns. There are 7 towns that are signed on to the agreement.
Okay.
Westford, for example, was sitting in on some of these meetings because they're considering joining. Concord is considering joining in.
Okay.
But they have not signed on to do the centralized dispatch, and we won't be sharing vans with them. But they are part of this this TMA, Transportation Management Agreement.
Somebody asked me that question, and I had to say I wasn't sure, exactly which towns were involved, so.
It's been a very interesting prospect to get together and to try to meld the policies, the hours that they're available, the fares, and then, as I said, there's also a whole sheet there which came straight out of dispatch in terms of behavior and making sure the drivers are comfortable. It's to our great advantage that these vehicles are all very clearly marked. So it will be very obvious to someone when the vehicle that pulls up in front of their home is from one of the towns. It'll be very, very clear.
What is the responsibility for anybody that drops a client off? Do they have to get them into the house?
Mart, the agreement that we have with Mart, because of their liability, insists that we do curb to curb. My instructions to my drivers are, obviously, it's curb to curb, but if you see an emergent situation, then you can come to a person's aid. Someone falls or what have you. But yes, it is assumed to be curb to curb. That's the legal arrangement.
Okay.
And there was actually a spirited discussion about that. There were some people in attendance at these meetings. There was a selectwoman from Acton, a select woman from Boxborough, and they were very,
Purple?
I'm trying to think of how to describe it. They clearly didn't have a very strong grasp of how it operates, so they had a lot of interesting questions, which was, I found interesting to hear from the standpoint of someone who knows nothing about how transportation works, to hear their questions. One of the things that they questioned me quite closely on was my absolutely firm statement that medical rights have to take priority. And they were having trouble with that, which I thought
Wow.
was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, they could always have private people that would pick people up and take them shopping.
Well, what I said to them is that, if I had unlimited resources, an unlimited number of vans, an unlimited number of drivers, then I wouldn't have to set a priority like that. But I do have to set a priority, and medical is the top priority.
And what are the hours that they usually run? The reason I'm asking that is if you had a dialysis patient that started at 11, they're probably not going to be done before 2 o'clock.
Our buses normally are on the road at 7:30 in the morning, and they're usually off by, we strive for 4 o'clock in the afternoon so that the drivers have a reasonable shift.
Yeah.
We do make exceptions at times. We have never left anyone
No.
and not been able to bring them back, and yet we've had the situation where we take people for, in the case of dialysis, we had a dialysis patient recently that they weren't willing to put him on the van yet because he was still bleeding. So obviously, the van driver sat and waited. We don't abandon people.
No. That's fine.
But there will be a published set of hours. And there's a published set, that's your policy. And then you work around that in terms of absolutely no other choice options. There are dialysis patients that have to be there too early in the morning for us to pick them up, and the families make other arrangements to get them there, and then we bring them home frequently. Dialysis closes out pretty early, so we don't usually have the other circumstance,
issues.
but we do have people that get dropped off by family members.
Great, thank you.
The Healthy Communities Planning Grant, which I've been working on from Chenal 15, they've told me that it'll be announced on June 17th, whether we have received that grant or not. So I'll let you guys know as soon as I know. The community supported agriculture shares, Tina and I are real happy about this. The community farm has given us several of those shares. Tina's been working really hard getting people in, getting them vetted and getting them hooked up with the community farm people, and that program actually starts this week. And remember, we had 2 shares that were donated to us by the Rotary. So I'm looking forward to picking that up and dropping it off in the diner and making that available to be part of our lunch program, our nutrition program.
Strawberries are out.
Pardon?
Strawberries are out.
Yeah. I don't know if they have strawberries, but
You get good
certainly get some green
strawberries
stuff.
I saw that sign yesterday at,
Carly's?
not Gary's, not
Oh,
Springbrook, Springdale?
Springdale. At Springdale, they had a big sign that said, wicked good strawberries are here.
And then I'd just like to bring your attention again, Mary, you mentioned it, that the third Thursday is coming up this week. It is in 3 days. It's the third Thursday of June, the third Thursday of July, and the third Thursday in August. We will have a table there. Our focus is health and wellness for this one. So I've got 2 nurses that are coming to do blood pressures, and we'll be passing out, I hope, our new brochure. And just talking with people. If you guys are in the vicinity, please, I'd love for board members to swing by, take a few minutes of just sitting at the table and chatting with people as they come by to ask questions.
I'd like to see at least one board member there each
well, I
Thursday.
thought Roseanne was going to be there. Is she, as far as we know?
I'm not sure about that, and she's
Okay.
not here, so I
You
don't
need to
know.
check with her.
Yeah.
See if, make sure she is going to
So
be.
you have 2 additional nurses that are going to be coming?
Additional?
Well,
Well, Roseanne's not a nurse.
yes, she is.
Oh, yes, she is a nurse, that's right. And a lawyer. I was thinking about the legal side of it.
No.
She's not doing blood pressures. That's not who I'm talking about.
Okay.
I have 2 nurses that are part of our blood pressure clinic that are coming to do blood pressures.
Okay.
And I would assume a member of the subcommittee, or at least
I'll be
one or
wandering
2
around.
subcommittee members should be there. But I think it would be nice for other board members to get down, you know, for, at least for a few minutes, to,
And I don't know if it's obvious, but I will be there.
We'll bring you a hat for the heat. They say we're not going to have any rain this week. Okay.
Yeah, we've had a couple with rain. Then we had the one that was 100 degrees. That was unbelievable. And then the rest of this is our statistics. Transportation is down a little bit, which is great, giving us a little bit of a break. I've got drivers that are off on vacations and things. You'll notice that in the monthly statistics, I've started including the blasts from the
I like
past.
that, I like that, yeah.
So if we go back to May of 2013, you can see that we had significantly fewer visitors and significantly fewer visits. So, you know, onward and upward. And again, you know, I show cancellations. That shows the work that dispatch has to do, and no-shows show the work that we have to do. Excuse me, this is the van driver.
Okay. I think Pam was done. We are going to move on in her absence anyway, and I'll double check with her when she comes back to make sure she doesn't have something else to offer. So let's move on to the senior diner.
No, what about Tina?
I'm sorry, did I skip over you again, Tina? I did. I didn't even did that last month to poor Tina, and I truly apologize. It's not intentional.
No, that's fine. Hi, everyone. Good
I
to see
checked
you.
off Pam too fast, I think,
Okay.
so.
All right, so basically, May has been a busy month getting the CSA applications approved. There were 2 senior small shares and 6 family shares that were donated by private donors for people in need, and so that's all taken care of. We ended up with Catholic Heart Work Camp comes in next week, Monday through Thursday, with Friday being their program that they offer to all the participants, and we have a record number of 16 households that will be helped
Wow.
here in Littleton, which is double what we usually
yeah.
do, but we had a lot of need, and the director was willing, the director of the Catholic Heart Work Camp was willing to look at all the applications, and so far, I think we're a go with all of them, so we're glad about that.
What kinds of things do they do, Tina?
They do a variety of things, but some can be as young as 14 years old, some of the workers, with an adult supervisor, and sometimes the young adult supervisor can be as young as 21 years old.
But what kind of things will they do for
They
the,
will do yard work, painting fences, repairing a broken deck, and in one case, we had somebody who did get the proper building permit, and they're going to rebuild a broken ramp that had been
nice.
partially unassembled, and they got the building permit, and they got all the wood and everything needed and paint, and they're going to be doing that
Now,
project.
who gets the stuff? Is it the Catholic Association or?
Usually the homeowner.
Or the homeowner.
It's usually the homeowner. If there's a hardship situation, last year I know there was a little bit of funding from the Catholic Heart Work Camp to help with some additional repairs on a set of stairs that were needed.
And most of it's outside?
Oh, no, and some of it's inside.
is it
And
inside?
they do miracles in organizing garages and organizing basements and helping people who are getting ready to downsize. And in some cases, there's not a paintbrush used, there's not, there's nothing used but their manpower of helping organize someone's house, and it's not a painting project.
Have the bond to do it, and the
They
strength to
do,
do
and they
things.
have the enthusiasm, and that's what, I think is really nice. In some of the cases, we've seen that nothing's been painted, but a whole lot has been accomplished by what they've
that in
done.
itself
Because they're a very
makes it much better.
positive, group of people, so we're glad. And, in general, it's been the usual food stamp applications, and, the group from Aspire, from Devon's area, has been coming, and they consulted the diner manager and asked if they could participate in occasional Thursday lunches, which they have been joining us for twice now, and they've enjoyed that Thursday lunch.
They do the centerpieces.
Yes, when they get them, and after graduation, there were no extra flowers left at the donation site, so they didn't have any flowers for us last week. So hopefully this week, they'll have some donated flowers so they can replace the 6 vases that they do on the 6 tables at the diner. Well, what I like, that I see happening, is they're starting to interact with more and more people each time they come, and they really love it here. They have a lot of positive things to say about all of you and the place and the diner. And then the last thing I want to bring up is the Habitat for Humanity Critical Home Repair Program. I'm excited to say we have one application out that somebody is applying for it for a new roof. And it's a great program. I just have the one brochure that I'll pass around, and feel free, if you want your own, I can get you one. They partner with the homeowner, and for every $1,000 worth of work that's done, the homeowner provides 8 hours of volunteer work. And if they're not physically able to stand up on a roof or do any of the, the more difficult things, they can answer the phones over at the Habitat for Humanity office, and it sounds like a really good program. And the payback, how you pay back, is very manageable. They said in some instances, people can't afford to pay $200 a month to pay someone back, so they renegotiate that with them, and it's a 0% interest loan. There are income guidelines. I was fortunate the family that applied for it is within those guidelines, so I'm hoping they'll be able to give all their proofs of documents so that they can, follow through with this program. But I'll pass this around and make a copy for anyone who wants their own. And I think that's it. Yeah.
How is the shelf?
Oh, okay, good, thank you. And accessed, yeah.
Any questions for Tina?
Oh, thank you.
Those are exciting things happening.
You didn't do any Are You OK programs, did you, this month?
Not this month.
No.
The Are You OK program, Mary, as I understand it, is operated by fire departments in towns, not by the Council on Aging.
That's great. That's great.
In fact, I believe that's a copyrighted name for a software program that calls people automatically.
Good, because that's what Leominster, their fire department or police, I forgot which, does it also. That's
I'm
great.
meeting with Emmett tomorrow morning. I'll ask him, see if he
Good.
knows Emmett Schmarzo from the state.
Did you have anything else that you?
I'm sorry,
Oh,
but,
right, no, I know, but I wanted to double check with you.
Yeah, don't get too excited about that extra money in the van account. The brakes are giving us trouble on this.
Of course.
No, I didn't have anything else to add. I don't know if anybody has any questions for my report.
If we step back for a minute if you have any questions for Pam, I think.
I do want to report
Tina,
that.
Would you accept my report
We
and then
will-
back to Pam's? I don't know how you do it.
No, I'm just going to have a vote to accept all the reports. I have it
okay.
down so I don't forget it this time. Once we're done.
Just a comment, I don't know where you got your number for, but I have 573 rides from the two buses for the month.
I may have gotten the number. I may have just put it on for one, because now they're giving me 2 reports. I was in a
Right.
hurry. I might have
I've done
accidentally
that
put
too,
it on.
so that's
for-
why I figured it might have.
Oh, good thinking,
about-
Bob.
Did we do the senior diner and bingo?
No, that's the last.
We're not, one thing at a time here. We have 2 reports that we're trying to finish up, and then we'll move on
All
to
right,
that
that's
one.
what I didn't know if it was like.
Yeah, no.
Well, I
Altogether.
would want to add one more thing about the, now that the diner is back up and running. Again, Gail is getting extremely positive feedback from Minuteman. They are very happy with our program, they're very happy with our numbers, and they hold her up as an example of how they wish all the COAs operated.
That's neat. Yeah, well, she deserves it, too. I think she's a great asset.
Yep. And we're getting great turnout on those Thursday lunches.
Yes, yep. Okay, questions for Tina? Questions for Pam? Are we all set? Barbara, now you're on. And I apologize again, Tina. I just slid right over her.
Like you said, the Thursday program is very popular, and since I made that announcement last month, Gail has received some monetary donations toward the Thursday lunch.
Wonderful.
And, which is really nice. Also, the